settling in as Mason District's new commander. Returning to the Mason District was like a breath of fresh air, basically trading the politics of headquarters and high-level county intrigue for lower-level community-based intrigue. All of my favorite support staff were there from earlier. Karen and Eva, the secretaries, Larry Clark and Josh Brown, the intrepid crime prevention officers, to name but a few. Audrey Slyman was a new first lieutenant and was assigned as my assistant commander. Ironically, years earlier, as a second lieutenant, she had been all but driven from the station by a cabal of disgruntled co-workers who resented her for her high ethics, low tolerance for laziness, and more probably for the fact that she was married to then-Captain Ron Miner, who had a number of detractors in the department, including the station's command at that time. We were, however, a great team. We worked well with the Mason District Board Representative Tina Trapnell, who had taken over from Tom Davis, had a great rapport with the strongly influential neighborhood watch groups and community associations, tremendous cooperation from the Black and Hispanic communities, Marta Wyatt and Irma Ortiz in particular come to mind, a good working relationship with county service agencies, and the faith community. We inherited a newly renovated, greatly expanded district station. My office was so large, I often commented that you could house the homeless in it. The locker room facilities were immense. The Sally Port was huge. The prisoner processing area on a par with any modern lockup. Great parking, lots of green space, and well-thought-out office spaces for supervisors, specialty units, and detectives. I recall touring the facilities upon my arrival with outgoing, newly promoted Major Dana Libby, who was showing me around, telling me all about this and that, what I should know about this community, that neighborhood, etc., until I interrupted and reminded him that this would be my third assignment at Mason. I was certain that things hadn't changed that much since my last tour. Dana's departure from Mason took him to headquarters to assume the position of Patrol Bureau Major. I may not have had another opportunity to mention Dana Libby. His wife was a secretary at Mason during my first tour. Mary Libby was very efficient and well-liked by everyone. Later, upon retirement, he and Mary found Christ, and upon his retirement, they became officers or soldiers in the Salvation Army and moved to the West Coast. While I know there were numerous challenges while back at Mason as its commander, I don't recall any that rivaled my time there as the second in charge. Audrey and I attended numerous community meetings, often 3 and 4 nights a week, often having to split up to provide coverage. There were fun, exciting events like the annual Mason Station Open House, show and tell, dog and pony show of all the PD's toys, including the helicopter, SWAT team, K-9, crime prevention displays, etc. The annual National Night Out, in which community groups and neighborhood watch organizations held block parties and ice cream socials, and other community-based events, which as often as not celebrated the great relationship the local police had with the communities within its boundaries. One of Audrey's and my self-imposed challenges was to try to eat at every single restaurant in the Mason District. It was known for its diverse cultures and plethora of eateries. Try as we might, there was so much turnover in the restaurant biz that we were never able to accomplish our goal. I should mention that I felt very lucky to have had the opportunity to return to familiar stations throughout my career. Having cut my teeth at the McLean station as a rookie, it was very easy to return as a squad supervisor. Having spent time at the Mason station both as an assistant squad commander, corporal back in those years, then again as the assistant station commander as a first lieutenant, it was a breeze to return as a commander, a captain, later in my career. I felt it helped me be successful because I didn't have to learn everything from scratch. It was like returning home. I think that paid off in my ability to empathize with the officers and the community, and served me in later years representing the entire agency to the community at large and to the Board of Supervisors. Of course, those years spent at McLean and Mason meant there were 5 other districts in which I did not serve. However, I tried my best to understand their demographics and issues and was successful, I think, at being believable and trusted in those communities as well. While I'm sure there were many accomplishments and achievements I could cite, one was particularly noteworthy and, was so often the case, stood to save the day years later for a department innovation. Since we had this relatively high-tech lockup, I wanted to be sure that it was used for its intended purpose and didn't become just another storage area for the building. Audrey and I worked with the Department of Criminal Justice Services and the juvenile justice agencies to get the Mason District lockup certified for both adult and juvenile offenders. I was of the position that the less serious offenses we could process through the station, the less impact on the county jail and the faster our officers could get back to their patrol areas. We set up alcohol testing Wednesdays through Sundays, staffed it with assigned or overtime officers, encouraged the state police, Falls Church, and other district stations to use the facility and avoid the backlog at the main jail. We worked with the Sheriff's Department and had deputies assigned on weekend evenings to process detainees according to their policies and protocols. All of this helped speed up the arrest and booking process, got folks charged with lesser crimes back to their homes more swiftly, permitted drunks to sleep it off prior to being released, and provided regular transports to the main lockup for those prisoners who would not be going home anytime soon. It was also during my days at Mason that I not only encouraged the officers to take advantage of the department's wellness program, several hours per week during work hours to participate in physical fitness activities, but also began my real love of running and training for the Marine Corps marathons. The running trails in the district, as well as a periodic run up Sleepy Hollow Road to Seven Corners, could sure help build up running stamina. There was nothing like a period of good, strenuous exercise at the end of a difficult day to help relax, even if you did have to attend an evening community meeting later that evening. The worst times, if I recall, as a station commander, were those late-night phone calls, mostly just advising you of some heinous event, so you would know about it early in its development, but sometimes about those injured officers, officer-involved shootings, and the most serious of crime scenes where the press or higher-ups were sure to appear. I recall having to respond to the Fairfax Hospital emergency room on a December 23rd, late in the evening, because an officer had struck and killed a drunk driver while on his way to back up another officer who couldn't be raised on his radio. I remember distinctly the officer himself, not seriously injured, but admitted for observation, crying uncontrollably at what had happened and trying to console him. What a bummer that was. And speaking of crying, how about the time two officers were involved in some off-duty fracas? Nothing serious, if I recall, just some shouting, cursing, misusing their authority or whatever at a restaurant or club at the Yorktown Shopping Center. After the investigation of their misbehavior was concluded, I conducted a disciplinary hearing in my office with their supervisor and the two of them. I know the charges against them were sustained, but I think they were only going to get a written, if not just an oral reprimand. Oh my God, you've never seen such crying, sobbing, ballyhooing. Oh, Captain, we're so sorry. We didn't mean to bring disgrace upon the department. We didn't mean to waste everyone's time involved in this. We're so ashamed. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo, boo-hoo. I didn't know whether to cry myself or laugh to myself.